And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another instalment of our ongoing weekly series Till the Fabled End. Today we are looking at this, which is Deluxe Edition Book 11 of Fables. This is the cover, and this is a picture of Mr. Dark. He doesn't look like this in the way it's drawn in the comic itself, but there we are. We've got, I believe, Bigby and Snow White there. Nice image on the front. Spine, as one might expect. Perfectly in keeping. All of the Fables spines all kind of follow the same format. We've got the background, the blurb. It's worth noting, these background blurbs never ever say anything relevant to the story inside. They're just very, very generic. Anyway, here we have this. Inside front flap is the standard pull quotes. The rear French flap is again the standard bio detail of Bill Willingham. And then inside that on the end pages we've got the standard purple skyline. If we take the DJ off, we have a textless variation thereof underneath the cover, which is there, which is nice. And again the hunt for good thumbnail images continues, but I'll hopefully be using this. Let's have a look at what's inside. So the contents of this is this is probably the thickest and sort of most contents of any of the deluxe editions. This is issues 86 to 100, keeping in mind that issue 100 is a double-sized or oversized issue. The contents, as we'll see here, we've got an introduction by Elisa Whitney, Boxing Days, The Witches arc, a ball game arc, which I think is actually 2 issues. Then we've got the Rose Red arc, Dark City, Single Combat, After the Duel, and a variety of other kind of like bonus features and bits and pieces that we'll talk about. It's quite hard to map these in terms of what issue applies to what, and so I'm going to kind of give up on that because it is really difficult. For example, Out to the Ball Game is 2 issues, but then some of these are only partial issues of various bits and pieces. But that is the contents thereof. So, what is the story like? Well, this is the Fables volume that came after volume 10, of course, which was the Great Fables crossover with Jack of Fables and the Literals. So, that particular deluxe edition was kind of a break. It was a change of pace from the ongoing story, which is of Mr. Dark as the follow-up second antagonist to the adversary being in place and what he's doing. Spoiler warning, he's taken over, as we can see here, Bullfinch Street and Fabletown. This is Mr. Dark here, and this is him just generally being evil and nefarious. Right, let's get into it. The artwork is pretty much as we'd expect. The writing is solid, it's enjoyable. This was decent. Ultimately, this is just more Fables. If you like Fables, this is more of it. The one thing that I would say about this, and I definitely said it, if not in the last video for book 9, but definitely for book 8, is that again, I don't really see the point of Mr. Dark as an antagonist. The fact that he turned up so evenly after issue 75, when a normal Vertigo series would run its course, does kind of highlight to me this was never really an anticipated second antagonist or a second kind of arc of villainy. Anyway, so yeah, you've got the usual. You've got stuff here happening with the Magic Mirror and Buffkin. You've got stories set sort of reminiscing about the times of the adversary. Here you've got King Cole and talking to the witches and things like that. Baba Yaga has at this point escaped and become an antagonist again, which is interesting. You've got Mr. Dark just being generally evil. Yeah, good artwork, good storyline. Oh, the return of the genie that we've seen before. Decent story, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, I am enjoying it, and hopefully the last time I was talking about the Mr. Dark contrivance, it didn't come off too much like I wasn't enjoying it. It is enjoyable, it just feels unnecessary. That said, the story continues in this vein. Here you get a chance to have a look at the artwork. It's pretty much the sort of thing that we're used to. Essentially what happens is Mr. Dark is here. This is after the last volume, which was the Literals and Jack of Fables and so on. So this is now the Fables of Fabletown trying to battle and defy Mr. Dark, who is the new antagonist after the adversary was vanquished. And yeah, same characters that we know, same dynamics that we know. It's decent art, good writing. It's a decent storyline. Again, we're continuing the story here of the Frog Prince, which continues here. And I'll be honest, it's decent. Glad I read it and it was fun. But like I say, the overall, when you step back from it and you have a look at the big picture and you're like, actually, this is just an arbitrary villain, this Mr. Dark guy, who really is very one-dimensional. He reminds me a lot of villains that we'd get in series of Buffy or Angel. I can't remember, but do you know how every season had its own big bad at the end of it? And for the first few seasons, they made a lot of sense who they were. I mean, the one that sticks in my memory is the evil mayor of Sunnydale. And they had a few like that, but then occasionally at the end of a season they'd just run out of steam and have no ideas, and they'd be like, oh, this is the personification of evil, or this villain is the mother of darkness, or this evil is the I don't know, the goddess of tummy aches, or something. They'd come up with something and it would just be tiring. It would just be a case of, well, this feels a bit arbitrary. Oh, what we have here is a origin story. Sorry, I should have mentioned this. This Rose Red arc is the origin story of Snow White and his sister. And I really, really like this. Really good story, really quite dark. But sort of just really interesting and well written, good characterization. Shows a lot about the characters and the story and so on. Enjoyed it a lot. And again, this I could just eat all day. I could just have this all day. Just more stories of just backgrounds of the Fables characters. There's no need to have this big bad inserted of Mr. Dark. I just would have been really happy to learn more about the witches, or Snow White, or Rose Red, or any of these people. That said, I think this is probably issue 100, but in issue 100 they have a battle with Mr. Dark. And again, you can see here the artwork kind of changing to a much more contemporary framing mechanism. We're now going edge to edge and we have full bleed artwork. The art style, the colouring style, everything has changed for this. So this is issue 99, it must be. And I quite like this, although it is quite a tonal shift from the usual kind of semi-mythic storytelling. I don't know why they changed artist, but if you go here, you can see very simple, almost wood panel-like framing. But then for this, for issue 99, we've got contemporary, as it says there, Dark City, drawn by Inaki Miranda. And I do like this artwork, but it's just oddly discontinuous. When you get back into issue 100, single combats, you've got the sort of the end of Mr. Dark to an extent. It's a hell of an issue. It's a long issue. So all this is issue 100. Anyway, in this, Fro Totenkinder, who is in this young form now, battles Mr. Dark. The battle itself is awesome. It's a real knockdown, drag-out battle. It's really interesting. Her techniques and her strategy and what she does and how she eventually, spoiler warning, defeats him is really cool. How he then subsequently escapes, spoiler warning, is really cool. But in the end, I think, again, this is where it feels a bit more like style over substance. Ultimately, this book starts with the Fables on the run from Mr. Dark, and it ends with the Fables on the run from Mr. Dark. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but ultimately, it's a circular story. And in that sense, it's just more of an odyssey to explore and enjoy more stories about Fables, rather than a great story in and of itself. So that said, I did enjoy it. It's good. I'm glad I have it as a hardcover. I know it sounds like I'm sort of bagging on it quite a bit. I'm not. I'm just conscious that Mr. Dark feels arbitrary, but once you get past that, this is good. Good artwork, good writing, good story. You learn loads more about your favourite Fables. I enjoyed it. That's the end of issue 100. We then have a prose story here called Pinocchio's Army, which is pretty good. And then there's more of these kind of like short little vignettes of like people have written in like, can I have Snow White's phone number? And then someone's written a comic. And now that Baba Yaga is dead, how is Buffkin passing the time? And then they have like a random comic just kind of talking that through. So yeah, these sort of little vignettes. There's also a board game. Is it a board game? No, it's a theatre game. So essentially you're meant to cut out from your issue all these various bits and pieces and then actually set up like a little stage theatre for yourself. And then, I don't know, I guess have the characters and stage a little play or something. It feels a bit random. I'm definitely not going to be cutting up my hardcover for this. Yeah, and then it's got the rules of how to play the game for 2 to 10 players. If you're a board game person, maybe this is for you. I am not a board game person. This is not for me. And then there's, more board gamey stuff here. And then we've got the usual extras with bonus artwork, which is quite nice. Always good to see a bit of blue line work. And then we have the usual biography details here. Okay. And that, everybody, was Fables Volume 11. Next up, we're going to be reading for next week's homework, Volume 12, unsurprisingly. I'm planning on doing all 15 and then moving on backwards and checking out stuff like Jack of Fables and Fairest and Ever After and so on. So you've been warned. I'm giving you a bit of notice. If you want to try and track down those volumes, please do. But yeah, that is the end of Fables, Book 11. I'll see you all next week for Book 12.
Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at @IamThomasJudge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.